Okay, welcome back. This is session 2. So I've added a few different command blocks over here from last time. So we're going to run through all of this. It's quite a lot to go through, so if you're following along, you'll probably have to pause a lot. So all of this took me about 2 hours, probably, maybe a little bit extra to get it all set up. A lot of that was like debugging and Googling things and figuring fixes out. But this could be put together pretty quick if you're more used to doing this. It's been a couple of years since I've done it. So this is what we have from last time. So the idea here actually is that I made a complete game. It's just like very bare bones. So we'll see what that means. It's like a game layered on top of survival Minecraft. So we'll see as we go. But this one is the same as last time. I just changed it to survival mode. So at the start of the game, I will press this button, run these commands. That puts us into survival mode, no matter what mode we're already in. And the second one changes it to natural regeneration false, which means that you do not heal. Your health hearts don't come back just from eating. You have to get special healing items like golden apples or potions or the special mushroom stew. And then this third one, this third block places a redstone block nearby. We'll come back to that in a second. So survival mode, so it changes game mode for players. This one changes a game rule for the whole world, and then we'll get back to this one, but it just places a single block. And this right here is a pretty simple redstone clock. This torch lights this up, and then once the signal comes back to the block that the torch is on, that block being powered unlights the torch. So this thing just keeps itself going infinitely. And then the repeaters just slow it down. So this is unusual, but I've decided to use a proprietary unit of time for this game. And then this activates. Actually, first thing we got to do is scoreboard setup. And then activating this causes that signal to be passed through here, which does this command block. So this is the first command block that we're going to get into after those four. So this one is hooked up to that redstone clock, and all it does is it's called scoreboard. It's like the type of command scoreboard players add seconds time 1. So scoreboard is like I don't even know what you would call it, but it's like one of the main commands. Like the type of data that you put in a scoreboard is an objective. So you add an objective. We'll go through all this in a second, and then add a player called seconds to the objective called time, and then we're adding 1 to the number associated with that. So that's why it's a scoreboard. It has like you add players or objectives and then add points basically. So with each tick of this redstone clock, it's adding 1 to the seconds player under the time objective. Those are just temporary names for now. And you can see the time is adding up. But it's not seconds. They shouldn't be called seconds. It's our proprietary time units. This will be the most complicated thing if you've never done this before. But we'll get right through it. So when you want to use the scoreboard in Minecraft, you use the scoreboard command. Scoreboard, the first thing you have to do is create an objective. Like you want to have a player that has a score associated with them. But in order to have a player, you have to have an objective. So what this command does is scoreboard objectives add, meaning we're adding an objective, and the name of that objective is time, which is just what I came up with. And then dummy is the type. So you can have scoreboard will automatically tally certain things like your armor level or food level or health, or if you're killed by these people, or if you break blocks or craft blocks. But we are just using a dummy objective, which just means that we're using it as like a custom. It only goes up when we tell it to go up. Like the game playing on its own won't naturally do that for us. It's the most common one that I've ever used. So I think I explained that pretty well. Scoreboard, objectives, add, time, dummy. That adds a time objective. And then the second one is scoreboard objectives, set display, sidebar time. So this is just so I can see it, because just adding the scoreboard into the game is like it happens in the background. You don't see it except until you do this one, which is scoreboard objectives, set display, sidebar time. So that is what causes it to be over here where it says time. We can also have, what are the other options for that? Oops. Okay, so you can set it in the sidebar based on the team, or you can set it in a list. I don't actually know what all that does, but this is how you get it over on the right side like that. So this is the one that creates the player called seconds in the objective called time and sets that score to 0. So this is like entering the information of the player, which in this case we're using it to count time. So it's seconds. It's not, I don't think it's really an intended use of scoreboard. So then I added another objective and another player in that objective. No, 2 objectives. Another player. Hold on. Okay, I guess that was it. That one doesn't. So it is another objective. This is an objective that does not have a player because it doesn't need one. And this is another objective and another player. So all of these, this whole line of command blocks is all scoreboard commands, first of all, but it's also like setting up objectives, setting up players, and then this one is setting the sidebar thing, which I only have to do once. So we got through these 3, and hopefully that makes sense. Seconds is a player. It's like their object type for a second is player, and the object type for time is a objective. So it's like a category of player. And then this one creates another objective, but instead of using a dummy this time and just counting ourselves, I used a one that's built into the game. So this one is called Minecraft.crafted::Minecraft.endCrystal. So anytime a player crafts an end crystal, they get 1 point in the objective. And I'll explain that more later. And then this is another objective, constants. And I'm making the spelled out 1 equal to the number 1. Because over here, where I'm checking if something is equal to 1, you have to, or I don't know if you have to, but I've only been able to figure out how to do stuff like that. If you set a constant equal to that number, you can't actually just type the number in for some reason. All right, so did I click this already? Probably I did. So this is a scoreboard reset. Just for the sake of not introducing too much stuff at once, I won't even go through all that. It basically just undoes everything that's done over here, though. And if you can figure this out, you can figure that out. But no matter what you're doing, if you're trying to recreate this or do anything on your own, it's all about figuring it out, because there's too much to memorize. So when I'm showing you how to do things, it's more like to get you started. But like I said, I've done this before, and just this took me like 2 hours today of Googling and back and forth and debugging. So all that scoreboard stuff was to get like stuff running in the background to use these. So these purple command blocks repeat, which means that when they're powered, instead of just running once the commands, they run at every, in the case of Minecraft, they run every 20 times every second. That's like the default tick speed of the Minecraft game clock. So if I had wanted to make this clock that I made with redstone with just these, it would count the seconds like super fast. I tried that at first. It's like way too fast because it's 20 times per second. So what this is doing is checking if the objective styro, which is my name, is greater than or equal to 1. So that objective over here that checked to see if people have crafted end crystals, this basically checks to see if the player, have crafted an end crystal. And if no, it does nothing, but if yes, it moves to the next block, which is to set my score from 1, because when I craft the end crystal, the game is listening for that, detects it, and then adds 1 to my score. So this takes the score back to 0. And this just says in chat, you win. So basically, this is what needs to trigger for the game to end if you win, and then this down here is going to be what triggers if you don't win, which is it's just running out of time. It says game over. So get this running again. Yeah, okay, so the seconds are counting now. My proprietary time units. And once that gets up to, I did the math, but I can't remember what it was, 2,800 of those time units. I think it's a couple hours, give or take. Once that runs up, if you have not crafted an end crystal by that time, it'll say game over, and then it removes the objective. So, like, what actually happens to a game when the game ends is up to us, and it's up to us to figure out later. All this does is these two blocks detect the win condition, the loss condition, and then goes from there. So we'll add a lot more and make it more fancy later, but for now it just will say in chat either game over or you win. And I have these purple command blocks set to run only when they are powered by redstone. So when I said at the beginning that we would explain this last block later, whenever I start the game, these blocks are triggered, and with this block, see, and what this happens with this block is it is a set block command at that exact coordinate, that one block coordinate of a redstone block, which is how this got here. So once I press that button to start the game is when these are powered and when the game is now listening for those win and loss conditions. So that's what I mean when I say this is a complete game. Like it's basically just Minecraft but with a timer. And instead of like I guess beating the dragon is like the default end condition, but we are using a custom end condition of the player crafting a end crystal, which just means you need an Eye of Ender and a gas tier. So you need blaze rods, gas tier from the nether. So you have to do a decent amount of work to be able to get to the nether and get that stuff and craft it. And then if you can do that within the time limit, you win. If not, you lose. Obviously very simple, barely something that can be called a game because it's basically just Minecraft, but it is a game. It is technically a different game. And you can see how this, oh, I forgot just like this really basic stuff that we did, it doesn't change the gameplay at all, but it does add like a beginning and an end and a condition. And basically we're just going to be playing with those three things more and more to gradually make the game more of a distinct game. So having done that, I was actually able to do a playtest. So we will check that out.